Hey, everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today we've got Jenna Monaco with me. So, Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. And just to introduce you to the audience real quick, I've got your bio pulled up. Jenna is an intuitive, certified meditation and mindfulness teacher and a certified stress coach. Definitely valuable with 2020 being crazy. I know we're going to dive into a lot of great nuggets here, I can already tell. She's the podcast host of Spark Intention and writes self-development pieces for Thought Catalog and other various websites. After years of struggling with anxiety and losing her father to addiction, her panic attacks became the catalyst for her self-healing journey. Over the past 5 years, Jenna has seen the life-changing benefits of taking a holistic approach to health. She has dedicated her life to removing the negative stigma around mental health and teaching others how to manage their stress in educational and interactive ways so they can feel more joy, peace, and fulfillment in their everyday lives. Awesome. I just read like 3 books that are all about this. I know we talked about woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
And I love them. I'm reading Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. I read Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza and The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. So I've been very in this like, whatever, it's going to work itself out. You know, I'm not in control of everything. So once again, Jenna, welcome to the show. And I guess let's just start off with whatever you'd like to share. How did you kind of talked about it in your bio of how you started this journey and overcoming anxiety, but I guess feel free to start off wherever you like to.
Yeah, sure. You might have to like pump the brakes on me because I'll just like talk forever. but I've also never heard my bio read out loud like that before. So that was a new
cool.
experience. So thank you for that.
A lot of people are like, oh, that's me. You're right.
Like, oh, all right.
That person sounds interesting. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, my bio kind of said it all. My panic attacks were out of control about a year after my dad died. And I'd been in and out of therapy for years prior to that because of being a child of an alcoholic. He was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Just it comes with its own stuff, its own baggage, and things that you just have to heal from and work through, specifically self-worth related. And self-worth, I've found has been kind of the key to everything. I mean, we don't think about it. I mean, we talk about self-love and self-care, but what we're really getting at is how we view ourselves and our self-worth, because that's where our joy, our fulfillment, our peace really comes from.
Right.
And so redefining that for myself and shape-shifting that to benefit me has been kind of my life's purpose and work.
Yeah.
And then finally seeing all of those benefits. So kind of backtrack. I went to the doctors. I didn't know what was wrong with me for my panic attacks. I didn't know that's what it was. And I just didn't have any success with doctors. They just, they were like, well, these symptoms are kind of strange because nobody said stress, which is weird because I've heard mixed things. Some people are like, oh, I got to go to the doctor. I say my toe hurts. And they're like, here, take this anxiety medication. Right. And then other people are like, other people have my experience where they're just like, well, your blood work's fine. And so I went to multiple, I think about six doctors, a cardiologist. I went to all of these people and they were just like, everything's fine. And like, it's not though. Like I am exhausted. I had really bad, severe stomach issues. I had eczema. I had all sorts of physical responses to stress and PTSD. So I was already in therapy. So I didn't think that it was anxiety related for some reason. I just didn't. Anyway, so I started turning to alternative methods of health and healing. And I'd already done that with my physical health. I, worked out. I ate what I thought was really well. And I turned to meditation. I'm a science person. So I'm like, well, why does it work? Or how does it work? Or all of those things. And I'm pretty skeptical as well. And now I'm here. And then I started the podcast. So about 2 years later, all of my friends were suffering severely with crippling anxiety, not just, stress, but crippling anxiety. And I was like, well, why aren't any of us talking about this? why did it take me so long to find out what it was that was going on with me? And I just felt like if there weren't any resources, and then coupled with the big overarching question for me was just, if my dad didn't feel shame around getting help for his mental health, would he still be alive? Would he be okay? Would he be in a good headspace? And I just, all of that kind of came together, and then I was like, and then I got a business coach, and then it was like Spark Intention was born.
Awesome.
And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. I mean, Spark Intention, I was never something I wanted to like monetize. I didn't know who would listen. I thought maybe my mom would like support me and like listen to an episode. And now it's been about 2 years, and
my mom's liked all my posts too on Facebook.
Right?
She was the one who liked
so
it before
supportive.
anyone else listened to my show. Moms are great.
The
Parents are great.
hipster of my work. But yeah, so I just didn't know, and then it just kind of expanded, and we're almost at 100,000 downloads, and
awesome.
Interviewing people I never thought I would meet before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a humbling experience. And I'm sure you can attest to that. Just like hearing people's stories and having them open up about their deepest, darkest like moments in their life, and having the courage to share that with the world because they have burning desire to change the world. I mean, I highly encourage everyone to, if not start a podcast, just talk to people. And
it's such a true point there. I interviewed, I don't know if you're familiar with Dean Graziosi. I'd had him on the podcast. He's like a partner with Tony Robbins at mastermind.com, but it was just a 30-minute call, and it felt like he was speaking to me, and he was, I mean, on the camera, but like to the audience. And I know he says the same stuff like every day on 10 podcasts. So it's probably like really second nature to him at this point. But something that he said that really stood out to me and that I took away from that call is that he said, no matter what, even if it's just one person, like someone out there needs to hear your message. Like whether they're going through a divorce or they had a job loss or they're just struggling with anxiety, like someone, even just one person out there who needs to hear your message, needs to hear that. And you have to put it out, post videos on Facebook, get lunch or coffee with friends that need help. I just got breakfast this morning with a friend who's going through a tough time, possibly, a divorce, and just being there for them. And just, I told him, like, I don't know, I've never been in that situation. I'm not going to act like I know the answers, but if you want to talk about anything, like, just be a lending ear. So I think what you're doing, your audience truly appreciates it. And I'm hoping to provide that same level of, information and knowledge for my audience as well. So you said,
and I think, oh no, go for it.
It's okay. I was going to say, did you say all your friends had anxiety? I'm like, are you just
literally not a single one doesn't suffer from some form of major stress, crippling stress, or anxiety, diagnosed anxiety. And that's just unacceptable. Like, that's just unacceptable. Like, what are we doing wrong? And I mean, people say, social media, this, that. Yeah, that does have an aspect
to it. Yeah.
Physical addiction has addictive properties. But what is happening? Why are we so disconnected from ourselves? And so now I knock on wood, but my stomach problems are gone. My eczema's gone. All of that,
awesome.
All of those stress related medical, otherwise like physical body medical things are gone. And this isn't to say I'm cured. This is to say that I have the tools to maintain a way of living and a mindset that is supportive of a healthy way of living, and that's purposeful, joyful, peaceful.
Higher vibrations.
Exactly. And I know how to get there when I'm not there. And that's the key, is to feel empowered to know, like, okay, what was once a panic attack that would take 3 hours to calm down, getting really sick to my stomach, all of those things, is now like a 10-minute hiccup once every couple of years. That's huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's also an indicator too of like, okay, I'm not doing so well. So what do I need to do? What tools do I need to pull out of the toolbox to to work on this. And I'm always, like I said, I love learning. I'm so obsessed with this work. So I'm always like, well, why does it work? How does it work? What else can I learn? You know, like where else can I add something else to the toolbox for my clients and for myself as well?
Right. Because we're always learning. And I mean, I tell friends this all the time. They're like, man, that podcast was like so magical. You know, you talked about something. A friend left me a voicemail the other day. I couldn't get the call, but the voicemail was like, man, I just listened to this message that you said about done is better than perfect. That's exactly what I needed to hear. And that was like a year ago that I made that episode, but it was ringing true for him as he was listening to it. Yeah. And it's just really cool to hear how you can have an effect on someone else. And it's not like I made that up. I probably heard that on another podcast. And then I recorded my own version of it the same week. And so we are all just learning from each other. And as long as you're 1 or 2 steps ahead than the next person, you're able to pass it on to them. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have to be like a guru or know everything to be able to teach. And I think a lot of people can't get past that mental barrier in their head, right? Because I'm sure when you started, I felt the same way. Like, who am I to have a podcast? I don't have any credentials in this area of entrepreneurship. I'm a newbie, starting a business, building my own website, figuring it out, trying to make $1 online. When we're all in that spot, it's very difficult to, I guess, push forward and feel like you have something worth listening to. So I'm sure you found that as you find your message and you learn, things resonate, people reach out to you and you see that you're having a huge impact. So that's really incredible to hear.
It's mind blowing. Honestly, it's still like, it's just humbling too. Because it is like, oh, who am I to, but I think that's just it, right? Like, I can share the same message, but, so I'm a writer by like, degree, by like choice, by like vocation,
background or whatever. Yeah.
Background, whatever. It's the same thing. It's like I can take the same idea. It's like stealing like an artist, right? So we can take the same idea of purple hippopotamus and then you can write a story and it's going to be so different because it's your words, it's your experience, it's your way of delivery that's going to resonate with somebody else. And I'm going to write it in a different way. It's going to be an entirely different story. It's just that the idea is the same because ideas aren't necessarily what's unique. It's how we present it, what packaging we put it in. And that's our voice, our unique expression that makes it unique.
Exactly.
And that's what resonates with. That's why when people say stuff like, oh, well, so many people already do what I do. I'm like, yeah, but they're not you. Because what truly makes us unique is our own experiences. And so like, it doesn't make me unique that I'm a writer. It doesn't make me unique that I like books. It doesn't make me unique that I came from network marketing, all of these things, right? That doesn't make us unique. But what does is our own experience nobody has that. I don't have your experience. Nobody has your experience. And people need to hear that because we can relate. Because the truth is we're always looking for those 5 emotional connections. We're looking to feel loved, seen, heard, like we belong and like we're safe. And if you're connecting with somebody on any one of those 5 levels, then you're making a true connection and honestly a neural pathway so that they'll come back to your podcast because you made them feel something.
Exactly. And when I had a call last week with one of my friends, the guy who left me the voicemail saying like, dude, that was the message I needed to hear. Let's catch up sometime. I hadn't seen him probably in like 7 months. We were going to a lot of networking events in town. And I had met him at one of these and then he'd invite me to some like, hey, here's one at this place. And he's in a total different industry. And the funny thing is we kind of clicked and we would catch up every time. And he's like, dude, you know what I love about this like friendship? Because like we really can't benefit each other in any direct way. Like there's nothing, we can't even send each other business. We're in totally different areas, but we still would just talk and it was a relationship and a friendship. And so I gave him a booking link. He scheduled a Zoom call just to catch up. Like I'm not trying to sell him or anything. It was just catching up with him. And he was like, dude, that's what makes you different as a real estate, like salesperson or agent. That's my primary income right now. He's like, you're not just trying to sell people or buy. You're like trying to make connections and friendships and you're not asking for anything. And you're just being there. And I'm not bragging about myself. I'm just saying like us coming from that place of just giving and connecting and really just being that lending ear if someone needs it. that's become more rare lately, right? Just time is so limited and we're all so distracted. It's hard to sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so like, I really appreciate you once again for coming on here and committing like an hour to me and my audience, because I know there's so many other things you could be doing.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be anywhere else. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I think
Appreciate that.
genuine connection is, I could go on a huge tangent about that, but nobody wants to feel like they're just like
Being used.
a product to you.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that way. I am offended when people reach out to me and they ask, hey, I really like your profile, like what you're doing, like, and they start asking me questions and I'm like, oh, like, this is great, you know? And then they're like, so do you want to join my
company or whatever?
It was something like, so your fitness goals. And I was like, what part of my bio, my profile says that I am in any way in need of this service? And it's just done so wrong. And I think we get so jaded by that.
So true.
And it's offensive because it's like, I'm just a product to you. And while that might work or that might have worked, I think that we're seeing a huge trend shift into person-to-person connection and genuinely caring, because I genuinely care. That's why I interview people before I work with them, because I genuinely care if I can help them.
Right.
If I can't help them, then I'm not going to take their money and say like, oh, I'm going to promise you this outcome.
Result
That's
or something.
just not true.
Yeah.
And it bothers the crap out of me that it's a thing, but it's a thing. And so I'm so appreciating what you're saying, like taking your time out of your day to connect with people who might even be in just such a different industry, but you do have that connection point and people do feel like they're being heard and seen by you. And that's that connection and that trust building is so imperative if you want to build a business that is sustainable. And on top of that, if you genuinely care, like we don't really go into, I don't think I mean, that's a lie. My teachers would say people go into business to make money. Yes. And I went into business because I genuinely care about elevating the consciousness of the world and ensuring that those people are doing what their soul came here to do, whatever that is, and feeling empowered to do it.
That's awesome. And people need to hear that. I mean, I'm guilty of the goldfish mind where, you know, I guess humans have less of attention span than a goldfish, which is pretty sad. I was talking to a friend about this yesterday and he's like, you know, goldfish have a 9-second or 10-second attention span. We have like an 8-second attention span. And that statistic is from 2013. It's probably worse now. He was going off on a tangent about it or ranting about it. And I've been more intentional lately because my girlfriend has called me out where I'm always scrolling through my phone while I'm talking or eating dinner. Someone will ask me something and I'm like, wait, what? Like I wasn't really listening. We were all guilty of doing that at some point. And so like this morning, for example, I had my phone on silent and face down when I talked to my friend and we were there for an hour and a half at breakfast because I was like, he needs help. Like he said he's in the worst rock bottom he's ever been in. And I can't be checking my phone. And I looked out of curiosity because I was showing him the example, like, hey, if I didn't have my phone like this, look at all the things that popped up. And sure enough, there were missed calls and texts. And one of them was a seller. One of them was one of my clients. I'm like, he could text me or email me. I'll call him back 2 hours. Like nothing is urgent, right? Nothing is urgent unless it's life threatening. Like I really just believe that it's not really an emergency in that it can be dealt with in due time, you know? It doesn't have to be like right now, because that makes you feel anxious when you're like, I need to answer right now. I need to respond. Oh, this person called me. Oh my gosh. And then you freak out, right?
You bring up such an amazing point. And two things to that. First is if you don't need the notification, turn it off. I don't have any notifications that aren't a phone call, an email, or text. I don't have any notifications. You don't need them.
And you can turn those off in your settings of your phone for everyone. If you haven't done it yet, seriously do it. Turn off the sound, turn off the little banner notification. It's all designed to pull us in.
Oh yeah. And just a little warning on that. You might find that you feel a little more depressed, a little more depleted because you're literally detoxing. Yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts, but you're detoxing. If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, I highly recommend it. But that's an aside. I love that you're setting those boundaries for yourself and your own well-being, because it's actually an act of self-care and an act of self-love, not just for yourself, but for the person that you're sitting down with.
Yes.
To say, like, I'm setting this parameter. This time is set for you.
For that
and
person.
I'm telling you right now that, like, you have my undivided attention because I have the capacity to sit here with you today. Like, I might not have that capacity tomorrow because I might be busy with something, or I might this or that. But if I made the plan to sit down with you,
I'm committing.
then I'm committing to this. And it's unfortunately like a little more rare now.
Yeah.
But I don't have, everyone's like, wait, you put your phone on airplane. My phone is on airplane mode most of the day.
That's
like
awesome.
I don't have, because my text messages come up on my computer.
On your computer.
So, but
that's awesome.
Nighttime, phone is not even in my room. Like, I'm like an old lady. Like, literally.
You are 80 years old. No, I'm just
80
kidding.
ye's old.
Well, no, you're not, because then you wouldn't have a cell phone. You'd still have a landline. So
I don't know. My Aunt Jill's like 96, and she's like, she sends emails. She's like, she writes for her, like, yeah, she's.
My girlfriend's grandparents, we went to go visit them in El Paso. We're in Houston, Texas. And actually, where did you say you're based out of? I know you're at your aunt's place now. San Francisco. Mm-hmm. We went to visit her grandparents, and I'm like, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And they're like, oh, we have to turn the router on. They would turn it off every time. I was just like, the router's off? Like, why? And then I went to connect later, and I realized they had turned it off again. I'm like, you realize you keep this on all the time, right? It was kind of, they're really cute little old people that are very nice, but I was just like, that was a mind-blowing moment for me as a millennial. I was like,
that's
wow.
The greatest thing I've ever heard. Like, they're just like, we don't need this plugged in. Like,
they never used it. Yeah, they don't. I was just like, wow, you guys only use the phone to call. That's amazing.
That's next level. I love it. That
is next level. But what you said there of just getting the phone out of the room, I keep it next to me, but I'm very disciplined about do not disturb at certain, it automatically changes face down. I don't want to see the light because, if it lights up and you can kind of see it when your eyelids are closed, if you're still awake. What is it? Who is it? And I mainly do that because that's my alarm, but I know a way to get around that is to get an actual old school alarm too, which may be worth doing for those who are really addicted. Because the hard thing is if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're kind of tempted to see what time it is, and then you pick up your phone at 3 a.m. and then you see something and you can read it and you're like, now you're thinking about it, right? And you can't go back to sleep. It's just, I don't know. I've become so disconnected in a way where someone just called me out saying that she thinks it's unprofessional that I don't answer my phone in this business that I'm in. And I reply, she's upset now, but I replied and said, I got to read you this message because I think this is in line with what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And let's see. So urgent, ... They are accepting another offer. Please call me. That was from her. And I sent her a voicemail. She sent me that text. And I kind of did this for the gram, but but I was like, hi, Gloria, not to be rude, but unless it's life-threatening, I don't consider anything urgent. There are always more deals out there. My client also doesn't like to be rushed. And she sent me this text. Chris, in my professional opinion, it's unprofessional not to answer calls or return calls in our line of business. It's also professional courtesy to let prospective and interested parties know an offer is forthcoming rather than communicate information to a colleague. No need to respond as we moved on. So I'm like, okay, well, I pissed her off, I guess. And I put this on the gram too. And I was like, hey, I was being nice. And I told her I'm not trying to be rude, but I also had to flex on her a little bit because just using all this millennial lingo for millennials in the audience.
You know what? I'm still catching up, but I'm like, I'm listening. I'm here.
Yeah, I was like, I got to flex on her because I'm actually having my best real estate month. And so I wanted to let her know that, like, I'm very busy. I have a lot of clients right now. And I can't answer every phone call. So I said, thank you for your feedback. I cannot answer all calls as I have 7 or 8 transactions closing this month and 10 listings listed. And it's just me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, again, I meant no disrespect, just too busy. And she just said, thanks, one word. So I could tell she's upset. But I'm creating these rules and boundaries. And sometimes I have a little bit of spicy texts back and forth where I'm like, all right, let me teach them a lesson. And then, little banter back and forth, friendly sometimes. But people need to understand your boundaries because you train them, right? If you tell someone that it's okay to call me and I'm going to answer anytime, they'll call you at 8 a.m., at 10 p.m., it'll never end. But if they know that, your phone's on do not disturb after 8 p.m., they can't get to you, your phone's not even in the room, people start to learn, let me call them before 8 because that's her cutoff time, or whatever the rules are that you set for yourself.
Exactly. And it's just, I mean, it's in a matter of respect. Like, I've never had a friend who's like,
upset about it.
I've never had a client even who's like, because again, you set the precedence, right? And I think you bring up such good points here. And it's like, I mean, neither of you guys is wrong. It's just how you do business, and you might not be for everybody, but I know that I want somebody who's not going to rush me and like pressure me into doing something, especially putting money down for a house.
Yeah, like, this was like an $800,000+ property. I'm like, hey, we can't rush into this. I'm not going to annoy my client and tell him that you're calling me every day.
You need to do this now. Yeah, I know. I mean, I just bought a house, so I know what that's like. It's like, no, I mean, if it can
be stressful. Congrats, by the way.
It can. Thank you. But it cut like butter, to be honest. It was just like, nope, here's the offer we knew going in, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's not a rushed thing, especially now I'm going to go into a little woo-woo here, but especially when Mercury's in retrograde. When Mercury's in retrograde, I know we all hear about that. I'm like, oh, Mercury in retrograde. Not a big deal. It's just that Mercury rules communication. So sometimes there'll be some glitches. Like the last time Instagram went out, like it just like crapped out on us. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Mercury was in retrograde. Just things like that, where it's just like communication and technology. So you just have to be extra clear, extra concise, and take longer with your decision-making process. Don't send an email right away. That's just good advice in general, but especially during Mercury in retrograde. Don't do that.
Wait, I'm kind of a noob, and I'm sure some of the people in the audience have this question. Like, what do you mean by Mercury in retrograde? Because I was like, wait, what happened? Who did what? Is that a store? Like,
so Mercury, like the planet Mercury.
Okay.
So the way that the planets orbit, sometimes they'll go into a retrograde, so it appears like they're actually going backwards.
Wow.
And this is called a retrograde. And so each planet rules a different thing. So this year, astrologically speaking, we all knew, astrologers, they all knew it was going to be an absolute S show because of the way the planets were. And it's
because Mercury was in retrograde.
Yeah, not Mercury. Well, it's in retrograde now, but it hasn't been in retrograde. So certain planets, depending on how fast they travel, the retrograde can be longer, right? So that literally, I could spend a full lifetime sharing with you the information because there's always something to learn. It's like, it's intense and it's mathematical and it's like, there's a lot to it. But for Mercury, it rules communication. It's a planet that rules communication. And when it's in retrograde, things just get a little wonky sometimes. And it happens about 4 or 5 times a year, maybe. And it's just kind of like, you want to be careful when you launch things in retrograde. You want to be careful. So from a business perspective, you would think about launching things. You'd think about webinars, anything that you're hosting. You would want to just prepare extra time to get all of the technology set up, have a little extra things, because it just things get a little messed up.
It's going to be funny. Like the next time things lag, I'm going to be like, is Mercury in retrograde? The person's going to be like, check. What? Like, what are you talking about? I'll be like, we talked about this on another podcast. I'll have to send you the link. How do you check? You just Google it and it tells you?
Yeah, you're like, just Mercury and retrograde dates. I literally have it like on my calendar because I plan my launches and stuff around it. I do.
That's legit.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, I've been looking at the woo-woo stuff. Yeah, anything, I'm like, hey, better to be safe than sorry, right?
Exactly.
Because there's so much that we don't know, right? When I read Becoming Supernatural, Dr. Joe Dispenza, in just talking about the studies, I don't know if you read that book or if you looked into Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
So he talks about like meditation, and they can like measure the light emanating from people. And when they're in that state of meditation and gratitude, like they literally emit more light. Crazy. And also the way that like like a magnetic polarity works. If you were to get little, metal shavings, and you had magnets, they'd be kind of aligned around the poles. We have similar ways that our energy aligns with the universe. And it was just really cool. Like I was like, you think it's all woo woo, but they're using tools to measure the light coming out of people, and it's real.
Yeah, like the science. That's what I'm interested in.
The science piece of it. Because you take away the woo-woo-ness of it. You make it, like, understandable.
Practical. It's just practical application. And if you start really studying astrology, you're like, oh, whoa, there's actually something to this. I've got to be honest, I'm super skeptical.
I'm a really big skeptic, too.
I'm a huge skeptic.
I'm like, where's the proof? Let me see.
Right. And then you'll see it, and it's like, whoa. So I knew this year was going to be rocky.
Why didn't you warn us?
But they did. They did. You just got to follow the right people.
Dang.
But,
see, I'm following the wrong people. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, okay. So for example, and then I'll really end it here. But like, for example, last time that there was a Pluto
retrograde, now
Saturn conjunction.
Wait, Pluto Saturn conjunction.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they're conjunct, there's like, so the way that a birth chart is, it's in a circle, right? So it's all geometry. So when two planets are conjunct, it's where they are on this circle.
Okay. Are they like crossing or something, or?
Mm-hmm. So conjunct is, I would have to check that. I'd have to recheck that. Yeah.
Let me look it up real quick. Define conjunct. Like, isn't that like combined twins or something? Like joined together, like combined.
Together. Yeah.
Or associated.
So when they're conjunct, that the last time that happened was like 500 years ago. And it was like, they reformed the whole church, like, or something like that. Like it was just like magnitude. A massive reshuffling, because Saturn is representative of, the divine masculine in its essence, structure, foundations, processes, how things work. It's just very like methodical. Okay. And then we have Pluto, which is death and transformation. And you put those two things on top of each other and you get a dismantling of the system that doesn't work.
Right.
And it's basically like shaking at the foundation, and it's like what's cracked here and what's going to fall to make sure that it's sturdy enough to move forward. And so that happened this year upon like just every planet was in retrograde, like, and it doesn't always happen because, Pluto takes, I don't know, like 280 years or something to go around the chart. Right. Yeah. So all's to say, it was a big year.
I mean, I've never really paid attention to astrology, or like, I think I'm a dragon on the Chinese zodiac. I remember that because it was kind of cool in middle school. I had a little Chinese zodiac, but I do know some people who are very big into that, and they study it and they know like numerology and astrology and stuff. And sometimes it's easy to brush it off as like, oh, that's kind of woo woo. I don't know if I believe it. And again, like I'm also very skeptical, even with like religion and stuff, but not getting into all that. I'm always like, show me the proof. Like, how do I know? I don't want to say anything about any religion because someone might get offended. But yeah, it's really interesting to hear all this. And like, I'm not sure, I haven't looked into that, but I'm very interested to hear and learn. And I'm hoping the people in the audience are also like, with an open mind, instead of thinking like, all right, I'm going to the next episode. Because we're going to talk about the business aspect of your business too a little bit, if we can. But absolutely. I'm very interested in just learning and getting new ideas and maybe thinking about things differently than I have before. So
I always encourage everyone to just keep an open mind, leave what doesn't serve you and take what does. So if astrology doesn't serve you, like leave it at the door. It served me, but if it doesn't serve you, like don't take it. Like, I mean, we don't all have to do things the same way. And I think that's so important to like share, because like I don't know if it's social media or what, but it's like if one person thinks this is the right way to do it, it's like everyone else is wrong. Do I have to do it this way then? And it's like, no.
I don't know how that happened. Right. I mean, I hear the jokes about it too. Like, oh, I like this house, but look at, they got a so-and-so supporter across the street because of the sign in the yard. And they're like, they're joking, but why is it so divisive? Like A or B? Why can't it just be like, okay, I see your point. Like, let's live in harmony. I like that coexist sticker I really like
had
the
that for
idea.
the longest time.
You do. I really love the idea
Yes.
of it. And just like, it's got all the different things in it. I didn't know what all the symbols were, but I can kind of remember just from seeing it on other cars. And like, I feel like we should just live that way. Golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. As long as you're not being a bad person and you're friendly and you kind of like mind your own space and keep other people's bubbles in mind, I feel like that's the way we should all kind of be,
Yeah. I mean, it's just the intersectionalities of all of that is like a whole other conversation.
Yeah, because there's just cultures and religious differences and beliefs and upbringings,
I think
right?
it's just exacerbated by social media.
Yeah.
And I think like I had a really great conversation with my cousin who lives on the East Coast, and they think we are just, I don't know, like running amok over here and just
you guys are crazy in San Francisco.
Yeah, we're just crazy hippies and just whatever. And I'm like, I'm actually really moderate. I'm like I'm liberal when it comes to social matters, but I'm actually a rather moderate person. I think most people are. They don't want an extreme. They just want equality and to like be able to have a job and like make an income that fits for their family and like live their life. Right. Like,
so
and I
true.
think both sides want that. It's just
and the Social Dilemma talks about that a little bit too, because I watched it a month or two ago, and I just released an episode probably 2 episodes back where it's crazy. Like based on your friends and your feedback and your engagement, you may see a totally different feed than someone on another side of the world sees. And we think, like, they may think all of you guys are crazy over in San Francisco, and then y'all are seeing people in New York, and even with like the flooding, Hurricane Harvey in Houston in 2017, everyone, even from Germany, people that I knew were all thinking like the whole city was underwater. I'm like, dude, I haven't seen any water in my neighborhood. Like, it's fine. But the news will make it seem like everything's on fire in the riots and like it's chaos and World War III is erupting, when really most like protests or whatever's going on, a lot of it's peaceful. A lot of it's, they don't show the good stuff, right? No, I like that one dude from The Office, right? He started, I forget his name, and I never watched The Office. I know you probably hate me if you're an Office fan. I need to. But that one dude started that YouTube channel like SGN, Some Good News.
Some Good News, yeah. John cool. Krasinski or something like that.
And it got so many views because when COVID started off and he's like, let's just share the good news. I love that idea because I'm like, thank goodness, finally some good news, right? Like what the world needed. I got to go check it out and see what's going on that channel, but I love the idea of that.
It's just be realistic. Like, I know that might be more boring, but like, God, I don't know. Anyway, I think it's a millennial conversation. Like, it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's like you need to calm down. Taylor Swift, you need to calm down. You're being too loud.
No, I saw one funny meme too, just about, it's just, I don't know, there's so much going on, but I love the memes that are like, oh man, hey grandpa, what were you doing in 2020? And it's like, oh, just like on the brink of World War III, like sending memes and stuff to my friends, like that. I'm also guilty of that. Just, sensitive memes, sometimes memes that push it a little too far, but that's kind of where we are now, where we communicate through memes and social media posts and like opinions and podcasts. We get our content through all these different things. So another reason why you and I and other people in the audience sharing our message and our thoughts is super important, because otherwise we're just following the news and the negativity, and it's very easy to get sucked into that if that's the only thing we're listening to.
That's absolutely the beauty of this connected world that we have. I mean, again, it's all duality. Yeah. So it's like, everyone believes they're right. So there's that aspect of it, but this is all duality. So the beauty of social media is that I can sit down with you in Houston and we can have this conversation. I would otherwise think that everyone in Texas is just like spewing guns or whatever. I don't know what they're doing over there.
Right.
And because that's the news that I'm fed in California, versus you guys probably think we're just like, again, running amok, like naked in the woods, which I mean, do you like, if that's what you want to do, but like, that's not what we're doing over here. Most of us. And so I just feel like, this is the benefit of social media, is that I can sit down and I can watch people from all over, and it really breaks down those stigmas of who people are. And it's like, no, again, going back to like, we have to look at people as an individual.
Right. And just the barriers too are broken down. Like I was telling my parents, I mean, they were arguing about something the other day, and I'm selling my house in Houston. So like I just moved in with them like for 2 weeks after not living with them for years. Like I've had my own house for 4 years. I lived in Dubai for 6 months with a previous company and stuff like that. But it's interesting being back now where they're still kind of doing a lot of the same, go through the motions. And they were talking about something, and it was just really interesting to like share my opinion with them. I was like, Mom, that's your opinion about relationships and how things should work. And if I lived in a small town and had no internet, like I would just have to believe that to be true. But now I can watch 10 YouTube videos from, I don't know, psychologists and like PhDs and reputable people. And I can let the people vote. What has 20 million views and like 200,000 likes? Clearly it's good, and it's got some science behind it or something. And I can listen to that and learn and get more of a wider lens of what I think could be the best answer to a certain question than just accepting someone's opinion as truth, if that makes sense.
And that's the piece that you're touching on there for me that's really sticking out is discernment. And I think that word, like really learning how to discern for yourself. And that is what I do most with my clients is how to trust yourself, how to trust that your capability and your ability to discern for yourself what is true for you, what's not true for you, and how you need to move forward so that the opinions of other people, they can be there, they exist, I acknowledge them, but they don't necessarily have to be my way. If I have to build my own boat to get there, I'm going to build my own boat to get there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I've been reading this one book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've heard of that. And that book has so many big words that I've never heard before that I've been Googling.
You were talking about woo-woo. There you go.
That's some really very woo-woo stuff. Yeah, I love it. But they've got so many big words. Usually I would kind of like guess what it meant and just move on. But now I'm actually like, okay, let me expand my vocabulary a little bit. And so I just Googled discernment for the audience to see what the real definition is here too. I mean, I knew what it meant, but just in case anyone didn't, the ability to judge well. And then in Christian contexts, this is the second definition, perception in the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding. So I'm going to go with the first. The first one is just being able to decide, instead of taking it as truth, is this what I believe? And I've been in that discernment stage as well. And another word that I've been really soaking up lately is intention. Like, are you being intentional? Is whatever you're about to do part of your plan or going towards your growth? So this woo-woo stuff's been really good in these books that I'm reading of just like, let go, meditate a couple times a day. Nothing is urgent. Everything will sort itself out. The universe will fill in the gaps if you just focus on where you want to go. That kind of thing.
And there's such a level, and this is so important and that's why I think entrepreneurship and spirituality, like they end up going hand in hand. Absolutely. Because it's basically learning how to control what you can and let go of what you cannot control. And this is something that I talk about with my clients all the time, because this is part of stress coaching, is what in the situation can you control and what in the situation can't you?
Right.
And then focus on what you can control, because that's literally what you can control.
And how you can change your life.
Yes, exactly. And so intention's really important word, obviously. It's part of my podcast name. But intention, okay, I got this like not visual, but this analogy because I killed another plant. And then I was like, but I just had the best intentions to keep this one alive. Like, I really wanted to make it happen. But the truth of the matter is, you can have all the intention you want, but if it's not backed by action, it doesn't follow through. And I can't control if that thing's going to wilt and die. If I've done the research to figure out how that thing is supposed to live and I do the right things and it still dies, like, I did all I could.
Exactly.
Right? But typically it would thrive. And that's the whole point, is that you have to couple intention with action and actionable steps. Again, messy action. I say messy action. You said, that done is better than perfect, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I always say messy action. Just Just
Love
do
it.
it. Take a step. Doesn't have to be cute. Doesn't have to be sexy. It just has to be the first step.
Yeah.
And that coupled with your intention will always win. It always wins because you've done what you need to do. Now, if I intend to keep a plant alive and then I don't feed it or I overfeed it or because I didn't do the right thing and figure out how to care for it, how to nurture it, how to nurture my dream, my goal, my vision, if we're talking about something other than a plant, but like it's going to die.
Right.
It's going to just end right there. So I don't know why I went on that tangent, but it felt important. So I said it anyway.
I love that because trying to get a plant to grow, and I'm guilty of not doing this. I had a roommate recently and she had a lot of plants and she named them all. And I was like learning a lot about plants through her. And it was just interesting because I'm like, I don't know how to keep stuff alive other than my animals, and I feed them and take them out and they're great. But I didn't know she's like, yeah, this is like Mary or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. Wait, like the plant's name is Mary? And we had a couple different flower pots and stuff, but it's so true that just like a plant, your business idea, something that you want to grow, maybe a new skill, it's something that could die if you don't feed it the right nutrients and the right frequency. And messy action is important, but of course, we have so many resources right now. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza is also attributed to saying that in a time of this much information, ignorance is a choice.
It is.
We have so much information where if you just know what you want to learn and you know the questions to ask, you can figure out so many things, like almost anything, I would argue.
How did you start this podcast, Chris?
I asked someone with a podcast and bugged them instead of Googling it. That's what people do to me. Like, hey, what mic are you using? Dude, there's like 1,000 YouTube videos about this. Hello.
$3.99, Google University. It's
Free 99.
And you
in a couple of ads.
But again, it's like intention versus action. The thing that happens is that we get so caught up in thinking that we have to do it all at once, that overwhelm blocks us from actually taking any step. So I always ask my clients, what is the single most minimal step that you could take that you would still be happy with? And
Boom.
We'll use the writer, for example, and she'll say, okay, I want 2 chapters a week. I'm like, great. So if you get 2 chapters done, you have gone above and beyond. But if you accomplish 1 chapter, then you have done your job. You've taken 1 step. Sometimes the single step is just opening the freaking document. Like just open the document. And so I'm talking like the tiniest microscopic steps here, but that is what it takes to move your business forward. And so when we're talking about like somebody who's like, oh, I want to start my own podcast, but I don't know where, I don't know how.
They're
Google
just
it.
Being lazy. Yeah.
Google it. And then
so true.
Open an article and there's all this freaking information, right? I actually wrote a whole post on this. I did. I wrote a whole article on this and I was like, so you want to start a podcast? And I just send that to people now.
Yes. And if people keep asking you the same questions, if you create a piece of content, boom, you can just send them that link over and over again.
Always create content on what people are asking you. Always create content on what people are asking you. And if nobody's asking you questions, there are Facebook groups on Facebook groups on Facebook groups of people, your ideal client, who is asking the question. And so all you have to do is just like stalk them and just, answer their questions. Those are like, and that's all free,
Yeah.
And that's how I got started with my work, was just deciding who I wanted to help, how I could help. But man, just Google it, and then just take the single step. Like, it's like, okay, I need to know the equipment. I'm telling you right here, right now, if you want to start a podcast and you have a MacBook, you need your like little
headphones, and that's it.
Headphones and GarageBand. Like, that's it. So
awesome.
Yeah. So take the tiny first step. That would be my best.
And stay focused too. I love what you said there. Like, what's the one thing you could do? And that reminds me of a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, I believe, where it asks you, what's the one thing you could do such that if you did that one thing, you would like accomplish your goal. So if you had to pick just one thing, focus on that, get it done. And then what's the next single most important task? Instead of thinking of
Right.
like, oh, I got to buy the mic and I got to create a website and I got to put it on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, that makes you not want to do it. That probably brings up anxious feelings of like, I'm afraid to even start
It's
this.
overwhelming.
Overwhelm is like the perfect word for that. And if you just focus on one thing at a time, I mean, you'll figure out the details. And I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're almost at the end of the hour, and I wanted to dive into more of the business stuff, but I loved the woo-woo stuff and the Mercury retrograde.
It's important,
like,
though.
Come
it's
again?
Come
Like,
up for you. It's going to come up for you.
Yeah,
you
the
watch.
reticular activating system is going to be like, I'm going to hear it somewhere and be like, oh my gosh. Like Mercury retrograde. I would have thought that was like a store at the mall or something, you know? Like, I really honestly had no idea.
What a store. What a store that would be.
That would be a cool store. You know, have it like between Hot Topic and like Vans. I think it would fit in like really well.
Yes.
Like have some planets and stuff. That would be really cool. Great idea. Although business, I don't know, retail is kind of struggling right now in 2020. May not be the best time to open up that store. But
brick and mortar, maybe not so much.
Yeah, probably not so much. But I guess since we do have a couple minutes, I mean, how, if you don't mind sharing, like how have you been attracting your ideal clients? I mean, is it just through content in your podcast, or do you have your own Facebook group? I saw your auto email, by the way. I love that. How it's got links to everything. That's a great idea.
Thank you. So this is a really good question. And sales, it's sales. Let's just like call it what it is. It's sales. You have to be good at selling, and you're never going to be good at selling if you don't first believe in yourself and have that conviction. So if you don't, if you have any gut response to sales that's not hell yes, do the inside work first. Because don't start a business yet. Do the inside work first. Like get that straight. Because if that's not straight, you're not going to attract your clients.
Not going to show up too for your people. You'll be so doubtful.
Yeah. So you just and again, messy action, you're never going to be perfect. You're always going to have some sort of doubt in yourself, of course. But what I'm saying is literally and that's why personal trainers are such great sellers, because at some point they've had to do it so many times. So repetition is the second thing.
Right.
Keep at it. And people are like, oh, if you believe in your product, I have believed in my product before, but I didn't believe in myself. That's the difference. So also to say that, how do I attract my clients? I don't monetize the podcast at all in the traditional sense, but I have gained clients from the podcast because they love the content and they feel like I can help them. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I actually have a Patreon, and that's where I do all of my content creation that's exclusive for Patreon members. And I have different tiers. And I wanted to make coaching accessible. So it ranges from $11 to $88. And it's basically like online program. And I run that program called Step Into Your Magic. And it is literally all about just owning getting that courage, that confidence, that conviction to do whatever it is that you want to do in this lifetime. And so that's where you get when you start leveling out. So there's different tiers. So it's like, if you're the skeptical one, I would start at the 11. If you're like, I'm all in, like you go up to the top tier, you're ready. So that's where I do most of my work. As far as getting people into it, you have to talk about it all the time. Talk about it.
And if you love it, you already do that probably, right?
Right. Like if you're not jazzed, like when was the last time you posted on social media about it? When was the last time you told your friends about it? When was the last time you asked your friends if there was anybody who might be interested in it? Well, like, again, we're going back to what we first talked about, Chris, like genuine connection with people.
Yep.
If you're genuinely connecting with people, then you know how your service can or cannot help them, right?
Right.
So genuinely connect with them. If you genuinely believe that it would be helpful to them, ask them, ask them what they need. Get curious about them. Make it more about them than you. Those are the best pieces of advice I can give for people who are.
That's such good advice. And for everyone who's thinking about, how do I make a buck? How do I make money? How do I make money from a podcast just from starting? You're already thinking incorrectly about it, because you have to be passionate about it such that you're willing to not make money, and you're willing to do that already. And then when you can align that with making money, that's where the magic truly happens, of course.
Yeah, I mean, money is energetic, right? So again, it goes back to what you feel you're worthy of receiving.
Attracting
if you
and everything.
if you don't feel like you're worthy of receiving the money for it, then you're not going to ask for it.
Exactly.
And then when it comes to you, you're going to want to get rid of it. So, so money is secondary. And that, I know that sucks. I would have rolled my eyes at myself if I heard that on the podcast. But it is secondary. It is secondary in the sense that it comes when you've finally like created that vision for yourself and you're passionate about it. Like people are attracted, like on your birthday, Chris, have you noticed people respond differently to you on your birthday than any other day?
That's true.
Because you're shining, because you're like energetically in the
my birthday,
spot.
like this is my day. Yeah.
You've got big birthday energy, and that's literally business. Like you have to have your big birthday energy coming in for your business. That's how jazzed you have and lit up you've got to be about what you're doing. And people are attracted to that. They want to know.
I love it.
Yeah, like it's your birthday. Wake up.
Just treat that every single day. I mean, just act like it's your birthday and you'll just have that amazing vibration. But that's really cool. That was a great way to kind of like wrap it all up in a bow of just bringing the energy. And like we talked a little bit about law of attraction and just like all these different things, because when you're ready and you make the sale and you make the ask and you provide the value, that's when things come. And even when that lady gave me that mean text and was like, we've moved on, that could have been a $24,000 commission. But I'm like, I've got so many deals going on that me being disinterested and not even tied to the outcome, I know there's other opportunities that are going to come. And so I'm in this cool state where I'm just like, I'm attracting so many opportunities. I don't have time to say yes to all of them, and more will come, right? It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful place.
And it's calming, right? Like it's
so calming.
Yeah. And then that's this, I hate to tell you guys, but that's it. It feels like magic. It's actually very much scientific, but it feels like magic.
It does.
So best piece of advice though is start with yourself.
I love it. Well, Jenna, this was such an amazing call. Seriously, I can't wait to listen to it again.
Thank you. I know it's unconventional, but
no, this is great because I've had a lot of people talking about growing businesses and like selling it and making millions and stuff. And so this is really refreshing to take a step back and look at the spiritual side and do the inside work. And so where can our audience go to connect with you, to learn more about you and to get on your Patreon plans?
Yeah. Well, connect with me first. Start with something simple as connecting with me. Come say hi. I'm on Instagram, Jenna like a little period, Monaco, Monaco, like the country, though no affiliation, unfortunately. And that's where I hang out most of my time. You can find all the resources there. I'm actually doing fire donation sweatshirt sales right now. So cool. I do that pretty much every year. It's become an annual thing. So check those out. That's 100% of donations go to fire victims and across California all the way up the West Coast and probably Colorado now. So anyway, check that out. That's actually the most important thing to me right now. So you can find that all there on my Instagram and the podcast, all of those fun, juicy things. And Chris, thank you so much for having me today. I know that, again, it's unconventional, but I promise you it works. So
no, I love it. This was a really great call. I just bring that birthday energy, everybody.
Yeah.
That's really silly, that's true. So thank you once again, though, because you have to bring it. Otherwise, you're not going to have that energy. You won't have that vibration. You know, people need to tell when you walk into the room, like, wow, that person has something. Right? Yeah.
Like, when somebody walks in a room and you're like, who is that? Like, there's somebody. They're doing something right? Yeah. No, seriously.
But for real.
That just comes with that love and peace and care for yourself. I mean, that's why self-love is such a big thing right now.
So important. Well, Jenna, thanks once again. Really appreciate your time. And I'll be sure to link all that stuff up in the show notes so people can connect with you and find you.
Oh, thank you, Chris, for this opportunity. This is great.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.